Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the American Tier 9 Premium Medium Tank, the Arachnid AE Phase 1. If you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the Arachnid. It may be an AE Phase 1, but it's not an AE Phase 1. And that's because the AE Phase 1 is a heavy tank. And you can get the standard AE Phase 1 whenever they decide to do a free XP sale or just generally sell the Tier 9. And it's a heavy tank, it's quite decent. It's similar vein of form to the M103 in a way. This, however, is a medium tank version of it with a two-shot autoloader. This two-shot autoloader is quite nice, to be honest. I like the double tap autoloader on this thing. It hits for 320 alpha, so you've got 640 alpha clip. It does reload pretty quickly with a 12.5 second reload, or 11.5 seconds as you've just seen if you boost with food, which is really, really nice. That's about 2.6k DPM more if you boost with food. You've got 0.3 accuracy on this gun, which is pretty good. 1.25 accuracy during movement and 0.75 accuracy during rotation with the build that I run as well. Means that, as you've just seen from full chat on the move, the gun bloom is really not that big at all. And that means the gun is always ready to go. You do have 238 penetration on the standard AP rounds, which is a little bit low for a Tier 9 medium, or for a Tier 9 in general. It means you do struggle with quite a few of the Tier 10s with your standard penetration, but you do have 280 heat pen, which will go through most of those vehicles. It's only the super heavily armed tanks, like the Mouse, for example, or the Type 5 Heavy, that you might actually struggle to penetrate, or the Lehman Russ even. You know, you will struggle to penetrate those vehicles, because 280 pen is still good enough to go through them, but you've really got to hit the right spot. And then, because it's heat as well, random spaced armor problems. So there is a bit of a problem in the penetration department for the old Arachnid. You do have 1,067 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP and the premium heat rounds, which isn't the fastest. It's above average, because 1,000 meters a second is about average for shell velocity, but it's still not that much higher than above average, right? And it is a bit of an average time in terms of the velocity, meaning you do have to give quite a lot of lead at distance to be able to hit the target. You have a 2.5 second intra-clip reload on the gun, which you've just seen us use, as we've taken a hit there from the E5. And yeah, it means that you do put out rounds decently quickly, but not super fast. So you do have to give a bit of time for that and make an allowance for the fact that you might end up taking a hit. It's not like going bang, bang, you know, you're going bang, bang. It's just the way the clip is. It's not super fast, but it's also not super slow, like 3 seconds. We've got 10.5 degrees of gun depression as well, which is absolutely fantastic for the Arachnid, which just helps us use positions like you've just seen there against that E5, meaning that we are a super flexible tank on a ridgeline and in quite a lot of positions, meaning we can use a lot of different positions quite easily for the vehicle, which is good. And with 15 degrees of elevation, you don't really worry about the elevation too badly. The Arachnid does go at 49.5 kilometers an hour with the build that I run, which isn't the fastest. It's about average for a medium tank. I do think 50 kilometers an hour is about average for a medium tank, but that's with the help of the traction system. If you don't run the traction system, we are starting to struggle in the top speed department for the Arachnid, meaning it can be a bit slow and sluggish as a medium tank, which, yeah. You've got a 900 horsepower engine, though, with a 19.15 horsepower per ton ratio, which is why I run the traction system, because I will hit my top speed, which is why I run it. Because generally, if you don't hit your top speed in a vehicle, there is, without a powertrain, or something like that, there is no point taking the traction system, because there's no point going, or having a better top speed, if you don't even hit the top speed that you already have, right? We have 512 meters of view range with the Arachnid, which is good enough to be able to spot everything we're going to want to spot, but we do also have pretty awful camo, as it has been converted from a heavy tank into a medium tank. We have 396 meters of still concealment, which is really quite poor, meaning that we do get spotted at very good ranges, and means that we do get outspotted by a lot of the stealthier vehicles, but because we've got 512 meters of view range, especially if they fire, we can quite easily see them, and we're not going to be outspotted for very long, which is, you know, pretty good for the old Arachnid. In terms of bonuses for this vehicle, it basically doesn't have any, because it's a Tier 9 Premium, and it's one of those cases of, with Tier 9 and 10 Premiums, you don't really get them if you think you might enjoy playing the vehicle, as you don't get anything out of it, pretty much. The other thing with the Arachnid is you do have a 44 degrees a second hull rotation speed, with a 46.22 degrees a second turret rotation speed, which means the turret rotation is just a little bit faster than the tracks, but that's with some help. The turret traverse can be a bit slow if you... I mean, it's not slow in the grand scheme of things, 46 degrees a second is super fast, and it's, you know, still only like 44 or something like that without rapid aim. But when it's slower than your track traverse, it can be a bit of pain sometimes and feel slow and sluggish, even though it's not really, you know, it's perception. So what do I run in terms of accrue and equipment on the old Arachnid? Well, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Track Mechanic, Rapid Aim, with the coated optics, the gun stabilizer, and the traction system. Traction system to get that 49 kilometers an hour. The gun stabilizer to get the best accuracy during rotation movement I can possibly get, so the gun doesn't bloom out that much, and I can make the most of snapping shots. And the optics to get 512 meters of view range. All three gun perks in the Steady Aim, Snapshot, and Run and Gun, again, to make the accuracy at 100 meters during rotation and movement as good as possible, so we're always ready to go with this gun. And Rapid Aim, like I say, to make the turret traverse better, to get it up to that whole rotation speed, so that I can get the gun snapped on target quicker with the turret. There's multiple ways you could set up this vehicle. I mean, if you feel like you're never going to really bother with the track mechanic, or, you know, you're going to feel like you're going to get your tracks... By the way, that was a beautiful blind double tap. But yeah, if you feel like you're just going to be able to use repair kits, you're not going to get tracked that often, which, trust me, this thing does. It does get its tracks blown off quite often. You could drop the track mechanic and run something like clutch braking to make the track traverse better, but bear in mind that you've taken rapid aim to make the turret traverse better than the tracks, so you've got to be very, very careful of that. There's plenty of ways you can set up the vehicle. It's down to you and how you feel comfortable playing the tank. So, as you've seen in this first replay, we're on Province, and it's turned into a pretty typical game for Province, really. We're up to 4.5k damage and 1400 assistance. We used the position at D1 quite effectively to abuse the poor E5. That position at D1 from our spawn is so powerful because you can come out in two different ways, and that way you can be able to outflank any tank that really decides to push along the 2-3 line and just keep getting flanking shots into them consistently. You can also spot down the 1-2 line from there as well, and you can spot that anybody that camps generally about FG23 for your team that might be on the opposite side down the 8-9 line, and it can boost your resistance up quite a bit. Obviously, if they're a fairly stealthy tank, you might not spot them, but if they fire, well, that's the possibility. You might actually spot them at that point. And we've turned into what is fairly typical Province, and that is that it's pretty campy. So, they're all on the opposite side over there that we can see. We know where the 780 is. We know where the Mantis is. They're somewhere over there. We're not going to see them. But we're in the situation where we can't really go across the open because, well, it's just going to go badly for us if we do that. Because if we try and get over there ourselves, we're probably going to get farmed by the 780 and the Mantis, because the Mantis will spot us way before we get across. So we've just got to wait for someone for spot for us, and then we can put the double tap firepower down range. So the Brask is pushing across, and he should hopefully see the 780 or maybe the Mantis. We did try and pop a blind shot or two at the Mantis a minute ago because we know kind of what bushes he was in. But we know that if they decide to cap, because this is the problem with the Province as well, if they decide to cap and we decide to cap, it's quite easy to reset from either side. So capping is kind of out of the option, out of the equation. If they went into the cap circle, well, we'd just see them and we'd farm them, and that would be game over for them. So what ends up happening is both teams does exactly what we've done here, which is just camp it out. Thankfully, our Baraskas spotted their 780. Both of our heat shells let us down a bit because 238 penetration, on the standard AP rounds is going to struggle with the 780. So we've loaded the 280 heat pen to be able to actually go through that guy's front, or it's just even his lower plate. We're not even going to go through the lower plate with the standard AP rounds, and it's all a waiting game. That's all this is. It's a waiting game to wait for them to be too aggressive, overexpose themselves, and give us some nice, tasty shots. Again, we know exactly where they are, so it's just that waiting game. We are capping, which will force them out into the open, because if they do want to get the resets, they have to do exactly what the 780 is doing right now. So we get a shot into the track there of the 780, which obviously didn't pen him, but it did track him in the open, so I was hoping that more people might shoot him and kill him. Doesn't quite happen, but we did get a shot into the roof of the 780 there, into his cupola. They are clearly trying to reset. You can reset quite easily from their side, but you do have to push quite aggressively straight down between the rocks to where that Mantis is, and then you can reset. But what they're doing is being very, very hesitant because they are starting to get shot at. But if they were playing quite aggressively, they could avoid the shots because they could use the downslope to gain excessive mobility pretty quickly, and thus, you know, get away with it. But we are just basically sitting waiting at this point. We're waiting to see if they will give us a free shot. The Mantis is poking, maybe not. The 780 is still hiding behind the rock. I think maybe if we can't see the 780, I'll pop a blind shot. Unfortunately, it actually hits the rock in front of the bush. It doesn't actually go anywhere near where that 780 could be. And it really looks like we might actually end up capping this out, because the 780 ends up staying unlit. The Mantis goes in and our friend, but unfortunately for us, yeah, we do end up capping, so we don't get any more damage. But that's Province in a nutshell, to be fair. We're finished with 2 kills, 4.8k damage, the 1700 assistance, the first class with the 1513 base XP. A pretty decent game there for the Arachnid AE Phase 1 there on Province. And we're on to the second replay. And the second replay, we're in a tier 10 lobby again, because it's just what you sort of face is tier 9 most of the time. You face tier 10s. It's just the way the matchmaking is for tier 9s. But, to be honest, when I'm against tier 10s, I'm not really that bothered in a tier 9, because I have all the capacity to face them, right? I have the tier 10 gun, so I'm never really going to struggle to pen most of them. I usually have some sort of armor or some sort of mobility or some sort of camo to deal with stuff, so I'm never really that bothered. It's not like being in a tier 8 and facing tier... Oh, that's a bit silly to say, really, because it's, you know, it's +1. But it's not like being in a tier 8 and facing even some of the tier 9s, or being in a tier 7 and facing some of the tier 8s. When I'm in a tier 9, I feel like I'm fully competent against tier 10s. But I digress. We're in Province? We were in Province a minute ago. Brain, well played, son. We're on Prokhorovka, and this is a map that I always thoroughly enjoy playing, especially in a tank that's got good gun depression and a decent gun and good view range. And that's because you can play a position like this right here. You can use that rock in front of you to cover different angles so that you don't get shot at from different angles, and you can try and spot the one line and get some juicy, tasty XP by spotting. We like spooting. You can see all the shots that are flying from the back. So we're just trying to put some shots into the FV4202 with a double tap. Sadly, one ricocheted off the 4202's upper plate, but that's just what happens. The 4202 has one of those really extremely angled upper plates and can bounce the most silly of shots. But thankfully, the second shot that went in blind did actually penetrate the 4202, giving us a nice little bit of damage. We're up to nearly 700 damage, well, 689 damage, and we're just going to poke again to see if we can spot anyone. We see where the artillery kind of fired from, so we popped 2 shots blind at those back bushes to see if we could possibly hit anything, because if we can freak them out, that'd be great, but we didn't hit anything. Our Object 140 went in on the medium tank at G6, not quite sure why he did that, but he ended up getting shot down. We pop a shot towards the back end again, towards where the artillery possibly is, and then the Jagdpanther 2 got spotted up, so we put a shot into the upper plate of the Jagdpanther 2 there, putting him down to a 1-shot, and that guy got shot down as well. Sadly, our light tank gets shut down by the M48A5, meaning we don't really have any spotters left. So what we're just going for the free blind shots. We know the stuff in that back line. We know there's TDs there. We know there's an artillery there. So we're just seeing if we can get lucky, because nothing's getting spotted right now, and, well, nothing's pushing, so we're not going to spot anything. So we're just waiting to see. And maybe if I fire and get spotted, something might fire at us, and we'll be able to get some free shots into them. We just lead the shot on the Ferdinand a little bit too far ahead of him, and that meant we actually hit the gun of the Ferdinand instead of the side. Frustrating times. We just a bit of poor lead in there. We, I'll say, led it a little bit too far to the right instead of straight onto his side. We put a shot at the WZ-11114 that's spotted, and we penned something blind. Yep. So you saw we got a penetration, a damage ribbon there, but the 11114 didn't actually lose any HP, and then the second one did make him lose HP, so we actually shot someone blind there. I'm assuming it was the 4202 that was in front of that WZ, it was unspotted, and we got some free blind damage. I'm going to poke over to see if I can get shots into the M48A5 now. I'm using the rock on my right-hand side to cover me from that bush position at K3 so that nobody can shoot me from there, and I was really hoping to get 2 shots to put that 48A5 down to a 1-shot, but sadly it didn't work out like that as we missed the second shot. And you can see this is what's nice about the Arachnid, right? We never really feel like we're out of the game, because you fire the double shot, right? You know, you do 640 damage in the space of 2.5 seconds from firing the first shot, and once you fired that double tap, 12 seconds go by, you're ready to go again. It's never truly out of the game. You never feel like you have that moment where some autoloaders have, where, yes, you do quite a bit of damage when you do burst with the autoloader, but you sit there just twiddling your thumbs going, I don't know what to do right now. You know, like, you're just like, bang, bang. Oh, I'm ready to go again. Nice. And it's a nice feature about the Arachnid, even though it's a fairly sluggish and, well, it's a fairly slow medium tank, being below average in top speed, although 49 is pretty decent with the traction system. It's fairly similar to a Centurion at that point. And you don't really have the best armor in the universe, because yes, you may be the AE Phase 1 in terms of hull design, but your armor is a lot weaker on the Arachnid, sorry, than it is on the AE Phase 1, meaning your turret front is pretty well sloped, so you can ricochet shots off of it, but you shouldn't rely on it like you can in the heavy tank version of the AE Phase 1. And yeah, don't think, oh, I'm an AE Phase 1, I'm going to bounce everything off of this turret, because it's not going to happen. And plus your upper plate and lower plate is weaker than the AE Phase 1 as well, meaning that generally you do get butchered if you're not careful, especially if the tanks are firing the premium rounds. You will lose a lot of hit points very, very fast, because, I mean, the front of a AE Phase 1 turret is about 254, 215 to 190, whereas the Arachnid is 190 just on its best armoured bit, which, yeah, means that, again, you do get wrecked if you're not careful. And the upper plate on the AE Phase 1 is 120, as opposed to the Arachnid's 101mm upper plate, meaning it does get penned a little bit more easy. But again, it is pretty decently sloped, so it can ricochet shots, but just do not rely on it at all. So at the minute, the game isn't looking too good. We are 8-6 down currently. We're at 2.5k, well, 2.3k damage, so we've not really had the best game yet, and I'm still trying to spot the things that are in that back corner, because there is still a lot in that back corner. We know where the arty is. He's, again, somewhere in those bushes, so I'm just popping blind shots, because you never know. If we can freak them out, great, they'll move, they might give themselves away. Plus, also, if we can knock them down a little bit and give them some damage, again, great. The Waffle E100 is spotted in that back corner, so we're going to try and maneuver into a position where maybe I can get some shots into him, but sadly, he just gets unspotted, which is just bad timing, really. But maybe we can get a free shot into the side of the WZ1 level 1-4. Can't quite do that. We know the Waffle E100 is probably reloading because he just killed someone else, so we take the opportunity to poke over, finish off that M4085 with a shot to his cupola, and we are down a tier 10 tank at that point. There is an Arachnid in the middle of the hill. It's like, well, Mr. Arachnid, don't mind if I do finish you off. Hopefully we roll good enough to get rid of this guy. Looking for the shot, but we can't quite find it. He pulls back a little bit. And low rolls! Of course, low rolls happen, which means that we can't quite finish off the Arachnid, and he gets away with it. That guy should have been shut down, but this is, again, where the beauty of the Arachnid comes in, because, just like that, we were ready to go again, and we finished off the tier 9 American medium tank that was in the middle of the hill. We went straight for the full reload, because we may as well reload while we've got 8 shells in. The T95 that was on the 2 line gets shut down by our T95. The 268 gets shut down by a 4005 that's still over there somewhere. And again, we know the Waffle E100 is at the back of the map. I don't want to get clipped out by that guy. And we're just going to keep popping blind shots, because you miss every shot you don't take. But we double tapped, and both the guys at the back got spotted. Obviously, because why not? But thankfully, we do reload in time to get a shot at least into the Waffle E100. Sadly, the first shot missed, but the second shot went in. The 1 level 1-4 is progressing quite aggressively down the 1 line, which I'm not sure it's going to go well for him because he's against the T95. The only thing that will go badly is if the T95 gets artilleried. So we're going to move ourselves into a position to be able to shut down the WZ1 level 1-4 and help this T95 out. So we put a shot through the side of the 1 level 1-4's turret and finish him off. That 1 level 1-4 was stock. You could tell by the IS-3 shaped turret there. But yeah, we get rid of that guy. And once again, now we're reloading. It doesn't take long, and we're ready to go again to put some shots into the 780. So we put a shot into the side of the 780. Oh, he just doesn't quite burn to death. Oh, come on. And he ends up getting away with it. We find the FV4005. Sadly, artillery gives us a big slap, but the 4005's given us a bit of the old spootings for him getting shot by a T95, and we get the shot in to shut down the Waffle E100, meaning there's only 2 tanks alive, which is the 4005 and the artillery. So what I'm going to do is try and move into the bowl to spot the 4005, but just as I started to move, it was like, oh no, there he is. I don't need to move into the bowl, so we're going to move back to safety behind this ridge line while keeping him lit up. get a bit lucky there, because I was going to go into the bowl to try and find the 4005, because seeing as he is a 4005, he has no camo. We should be able to kill that guy in 2 shots, and we get really unlucky that we hit his gun with the first shot, meaning that we don't actually get to kill him with that clip, which is such bad luck. But the artillery ends up finishing off the 4005, which is great. And we know where the last artillery is on the enemy team. He's somewhere down in that corner at K3, or he's moved into the dip at K12. So what we're going to do is progress down there as fast as possible. Hopefully our medium tank will be in range when we do get the chance to spot the artillery, or possibly our GUI, who should be pre-aiming, I hope, will be able to finish them off. Because obviously, if we do spot the artillery and he decides to shoot at us, we're just going to get deleted. Because, well, artillery. We snap the first shot at the arty, sadly it misses. The second shot hits his gun! Oh, come on! What is this for RNG? We're getting all of the assistance, though, on this GUI, and hopefully we'll be able to actually get the kill. But he's just back behind the ridgeline, meaning we can't get the shot into him. But maybe we might get there before our... No, we don't. RNG, it's a cruel mistress. We should have had a bit more damage in that game, but there's some poor RNG shots. But we'll take it. 4 kills, 4.8k damage, 2.8k assistance. The ace tanker, the Confederate, with that 2003 basic spear. A really nice game there for the Arachnid, which can be a fun tank. It's got some drawbacks in the fact that the armour doesn't really work that well, and it's a bit slow, but the double tap is quite nice. You just got to watch out for the penetration problems that this thing does have. Performance issues. It's incredibly common. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A great success.